Hi, my name is Jyoti Jo Manuel, and I'm the founder of Special Yoga. And Special Yoga has been around for about 25 years, maybe a bit more even, providing yoga as a therapeutic intervention for children with a variety of additional and special needs. And also children just who suffer with high levels of anxiety and trauma, which of course is becoming greater and greater and greater in the world that we exist in today. We don't train people to be yoga teachers. We share accessible tools that can be used both in the moment, in shoes. You don't need a yoga mat. You don't need to turn yourself into a pretzel. We're not looking at any of that kind of aspect of yoga, but more about how do we use yoga to support the child, support each child actually to regulate their nervous system, their autonomic nervous system, so that they can function better, whether that's at school or in their lives generally. And obviously, you know, there are yoga practices that we also share that help to build strength, flexibility, and fluidity. So what I noticed from many of the children that we work with who have special and additional needs is a kind of a slightly sense of not necessarily always knowing where they are in space. And so the practices that we use really also help to the child to feel more embodied, more comfortable in their bodies, more able to function, more able to move. So I thought we might just guide you through a handful of short practices today that you could explore with your children as you needed to. One of the most important tools in self-regulation is breathing, and the breath isn't always easily accessible for children, especially those that are in high levels of anxiety. Or who are very disconnected from themselves. So we find that there are different pathways into helping children breathe, which might be sound, it might be some acupressure points on the body that release tension in the breathing apparatus, if you like, that are very easy to use. The kids can do it to themselves, you can give it to them, all sorts of different ways of managing that. And also different movements that help to open up and create the possibility of deeper and more regulated breathing. There's huge amounts of science that says that when you slow your breath down and you regulate it, and you bring your breath into a kind of coherent pattern of an even breath in, even breath out, and a slow breath at that is one of the most profound and useful ways to regulate ourselves. And of course, once the child knows how to breathe, knows how to find their breath, obviously they're breathing anyway, but knows how to find their breath and use their breath, that becomes a really valuable tool for them for their own regulation in any given moment when life feels tough or life feels difficult or they feel emotionally upset, or you know, whatever may arise for any of us, actually, including them, and perhaps sometimes even more so for them. So we're going to start with just some gentle squeezing down through the body. So this helps us to just I'm in my body. So the intention as we start to just perhaps working down through your one arm, doesn't matter which arm you start with, it's just I'm here in my body, and we can start to say, hello, my body, hello, my arm. And then we want to squeeze each finger and go, hello, fingers, and just really start to have a feeling that we're here and we're fully present. You could also press into the center point of the hand, which is the acupressure point for the diaphragm, which often has the children, when it works, which doesn't always, but when it works, the children suddenly go, oh, you know, it's a kind of sense of relief when that one works. And then we can squeeze down the other arm, and again, oh, hello, my arm, hello, my body. So we start to get the children to experience the sensation of their own bodies. And it's like, oh, I wonder how you feel like today. And then we could put our hands on our hearts and go, oh, how's my heart today? And we could squeeze our head and just create some deep pressure. So we could squeeze from the sides, we could squeeze from the front and back, and we could also sometimes just putting some deep pressure through the crown of the head can really help just decompress kind of high levels of high arousal and high levels of high arousal really, and overstimulation in the mind and the thoughts. So we can also, I'm just going to move my camera a little bit so you can see me, we can also squeeze down our legs. So again, it's like, hello, my legs. Wow, how are you today? And then we can squeeze down through our feet. We could even squeeze through each toe and just start to feel our bodies. Very good. And then as we sit here like this, we're going to do a practice which we can do which can be done from standing or from sitting, which uses a breath and sound, and it's called the ha breath, wackadoodle ha breath. So what we're going to do is we're going to tap here at the base of the neck as we breathe in, and we're going to tap on our upper legs as we breathe out with a ha sound. So you might want to just try it with me. I'll show you how to do this. So we're going to breathe in, ha, ha, ha. Let's do it twice more, shall we? Ha, ha. And that's a very lovely way. So you might notice when you've done that, that you feel a really strong sensation in your legs. And of course, these big muscles in the thighs are the muscles that activate. They're like the fight and flight muscles. So that sort of tendency when children need to run, that when you tap them and you tap two parts of the body simultaneously, that also helps to calm the system down. But when you start to really tap hard on these big fight and flight muscles, they can be stimulated in the same way that they are stimulated by running. And then I noticed that when you do that practice, then the children are more able to settle. And you might need to do it 15 or 16 times in order to get the children to have that level of feedback through their bodies. And then we could look at some other breathing practices that really also are very calming for the nervous system. So if we were to imagine that in front of you, you're holding a beautiful ball of light. And what we're going to do is we're going to breathe in as we make that ball bigger, and we're going to breathe out as we squeeze that ball back together again. So breathing in and breathing out. And we can use this as a way of slowing the breath down and regulating the breathing. And slowly breathing out as if you had a big ball inside your hands. Ah, beautiful. And then we can also make some bigger movements with it. So we could breathe in and stretch up and breathe out and come down. And we might want to hum the beautiful humming breath, the bee breath. What we call in yoga is bee breath, where you hum just like a bee does. And we do that as we breathe in instead of breathing out, or actually it's a way of breathing out. It's not instead of. So we can breathe in slowly and breathing in. And we can do it the other way as well. We can breathe in. Breathing in. Breathing in one more time. And then we can take our beautiful ball and we could start to work towards figures of 8. Now, obviously, for children who are very dysregulated, figures of 8 are really difficult. And even crossing the middle line of the body is really difficult. So we're just going to let that ball swing a little bit to start with, from side to side. And so we're crossing the midline of the body, which helps to balance the left and right brain hemispheres. Oops, I'll get my words out. And then maybe we could make a circle with it. Circle. And then as and when the child is ready, maybe we can start to turn it into figures of 8, which are very useful for brain coordination as and when the child is ready. I really believe we shouldn't put pressure on any child to try and do something that their brain and body isn't able yet, or ready, prepared yet, be a better way of doing it, to be able to do. So it might be, if I'm facing a child in person, which obviously I'm online with you, you could take the child's hands and help them to make that shape. It'd be very beneficial for them to do that. Or you could be behind them and just guiding them a little bit, maybe. Or maybe they can just mirror you and follow you. Very good, very good. And then we can just, again, bring the hands back and just a gentle breathing in and breathing out, breathing in and breathing out. And then we could take this beautiful ball of energy and we can just push it in to our tummies. So whenever we have a tummy ache, or we're feeling uncomfortable, or we're feeling not so happy, when we push that beautiful energy into our tummies, sometimes that can really help. And then we could look at a couple of yoga positions that I think are helpful for a lot of the children, the neurodiverse children. So stretching is particularly useful because it releases coping chemicals, which help to bring more regulation, emotional and physical and energetic regulation into the system. So I'm just going to lay on my back here and I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. And maybe you'd like to join me. So we're going to start by just rocking backwards and forwards. So here I'm creating vestibular and proprioceptive input, which will help me to know where I am in space. Very useful for many of the children. And then we're going to lie back down and we're just going to give ourselves the biggest squeeze into our bodies. And we can bring our head up and we can just rock ourselves a little bit from side to side. Very soothing. I'm crossing the midline of the body. If I turn my head the opposite way to my knees, I'm actually creating a really good balance for left and right hemispheres of the brain. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my arms up over my head, stretch my legs out really long, take a really long, big stretch and breathe out, bring my knees in towards my chest. And then we can again breathe in, have a nice big stretch, and breathe out. One more time, really big stretch. So we could do that. You could do that up to 5 or 10 times. We find that that can be very calming for some of the children. And then we can just gently rock a little bit again from side to side. And we could take this into a bigger twist, taking the knees to one side, your head to the other, breathing in to come up, and we can go the other way. We'll do it a little bit slower than I'm doing it right now. And just really bring your body in to give yourself a really nice connected squeeze. Because part of what you're doing, of course, here is you're connecting your body to itself. You're stimulating the peristaltic movement. You're stimulating all the internal organs in the abdomen. Very useful and important for a lot of the children who have neurodiversity, and to help them both absorb the nutrients of their food better by stimulating and massaging the internal organs, and also to help elimination when that's necessary. So super useful. And then we can just come on to all fours, and we can take a breath in, head up, breath out, head down, and stretch your back. And of course here we're getting proprioceptive feedback through the arms to the joints, which again helps us to know where we are in space. And again, if we're back sitting in a chair in a classroom, or we're at home in a classroom and we don't have so much space or time to get a mat out, we can also just stretch our bodies by just coming over our heads and taking a nice stretch. And let's do that 3 times, breathing out, stretching over. And one more time, breathing out, stretching over. And then let's take both arms back up again. And again, we can go over repetition of movement, super important for these kinds of children, because it helps us to the body to understand what's expected of it, what's being asked of it, not expected, and then be able to relax into it and get the deepest stretch and most benefits out of it. And of course, that position opens up the rib cage, so that helps our ability to breathe more deeply. So as I mentioned, Special Yoga has a number of different training courses and also resources for sleep, for anxiety, for bringing just more calm into the system of the body. We also offer inset trainings and support in schools with practices that can be done in the classroom, in shoes, without needing a yoga mat on the floor or anything like that, that really would help to bring alertness where it's needed, and calm where it's needed, and overall, and as always, a very regulated system. So please come and visit us, try out our practices. We've got a few free resources on our online platform as well. So come and join us, come and join our community. We have a global community of families and schools around the world that are providing yoga as a therapeutic intervention to children with complex physical needs, all the way through to autism, Down syndrome, learning difficulties, and also just trauma, that, trauma and the kind of mental health, not the severe mental health, but the mental health which, where we're looking at really high levels of anxiety, stress, and trauma, actually. So we work closely with doctors in the States. A lot of the work is evidence-based, and we'd love you to join us. So thank you for taking the time to be with me today, and I hope this was useful, and you've got a little bit anyway to go with and to help play around with your children with a bit of therapeutic support. Thank you.